Hello and welcome to a quick lesson from HCG on how to change attributes for members in your Essbase database. First, I hope you know a little bit about attribute dimensions. They basically either describe or filter members of a base dimension. And attribute dimensions have great advantages in that they allow greater depth of reporting and analysis without increasing the size of the database. However, there are some disadvantages. When you create a SmartView ad hoc report, you have to add those attributes manually, which can get a bit difficult. If you use a Smart Slice, it's much easier to add those to your report. Second disadvantage is that once you add an attribute dimension to your report, all of the data points within that report are dynamically calculated, meaning the report might retrieve a little bit more slowly. And the last disadvantage, which is the basis of this topic, is that there is only one attribute per attribute dimension for a member in the database, meaning once you specify that the attribute for the Diet Cola product is 12 ounces, you can't later change it to 16 ounces. However, now you can change attributes. And actually, with the first of these two methods, you could use this method even before now. You can make an attribute dimension a standard dimension. And by doing that, it does make it a lot easier for reporting, but there are disadvantages in that it adds to the database size, the calculation time, the restructure time, and other things. Whereas the real topic here is why not use the new varying attributes, which was created in Essbase 11.1.1, and change the attribute for a base dimension member based on some independent dimension that varies. For example, I could change a product manager, the product being the base dimension and the manager being the varying attribute dimension. I could change that manager based on the date, which is then the independent dimension. All right, let's look at attribute dimensions in action. First, we'll take a look at standard attribute dimensions. Here I've got an attribute dimension called ounces with 4 members, 32, 20, 16, and 12, and it's been associated with the product dimension. You can see ounces there, and I'm going to edit member properties. And when I go to attributes here, you can see that ounces has been associated. And there's nothing down here. We'll get to what else will be there in a moment. And then if I go to the specific member of 100-10, which is my cola member, and edit its member properties, I can see that it has been assigned the attribute of ounces 12. So then if I go over to Excel here with a pre-created report with my colas and my ounces here, my East actual sales, but over time, notice that nothing has changed. It's always 12 ounces, and I can never change it to anything other than 12 ounces. So that's a standard attribute dimension. Now let's take a look at a varying attribute. I'm in a different outline now, my basic 2 database, and I go to my properties, and I've changed it, my varying attributes enabled property to true. And I've created a new varying attribute, which I simply called var_at, and I've assigned it to product. You can see var_at there, but notice the difference here when I go into product. In my attributes tab here, notice over here it says var_at year. That's because when I added it over to this side, I said that it would vary depending upon the contents of the year dimension. And notice that you can select any dimension. It doesn't have to be the year dimension. And then if I go to my cola, notice that it says varying attribute A, B. It's using both attributes. How does that do that? I'll go into the edit member properties here, and this time go to the associations tab. And notice that it says var_at January through June for the attribute A, and for the attribute B, July through, in this case, December. So each time I added it, I added a range down here, where you click on select a range and you select a starting point and an ending point. If it's a continuous dimension, there are also non-continuous dimensions that you can use for the varying attribute. But for this simple case, we'll just use January through June for the attribute A and July through December for the attribute B. And when we go to our simple Excel report here, we see that indeed for colas, the attribute A exists in January through June whereas the attribute B exists only for July through December in my East actual sales. And that's it for varying attributes.